Very busy hour in the KCTV5 Sports office. Welcome into KC Sports tonight. Marleah Campbell here with Gabe Sports. Gabe, where do we start? We'll start with Freddie Fermin. MLB trade deadline come and gone about a half hour ago, and a number of moves at the buzzer. Gabe, let's run through those maybe sequentially, but let's start with Fermin and his impact in Kansas City and your reaction to his departure.
Yeah, so the first move of the day, I think this came in
a little before 3.
Around 3 o'clock. My concept of time is a little interesting over the last 2 hours.
Blur. Yeah.
Just been reading Twitter, reading reports, and then working on stories. But Freddie Fermin traded to the Padres. They're in need of a starting catcher, and so an upgrade over their current starting catcher. And so Freddie Fermin is going to become their starting catcher. As a result, they sent back a pair of young, controllable arms, which that's kind of the theme of what the Royals have been doing in acquiring starting pitching recently with Ben Gergert and then Stephen Kolek. And because of that, the Royals end up with a guy who is the Padres' seventh ranked prospect entering the season. He is one of the top pitching prospects in their organization. He's a guy who, in a limited sample size, has already been pretty good at the major league level. And then Stephen Kolek this year he's more of a tabbed as somebody who could be a fifth starter, a long relief type of guy. But they're both guys who you expect to add to your MLB roster. And overall, it's a pretty good process. I would say that Padres fans, based on my reading online, were not necessarily thrilled with it.
Good news.
I don't know if
us.
And I think that's because they were so high on the pitching prospects of the guys that they sent back, whereas they don't necessarily understand, I guess, the value of what they're getting in Freddie Fermin, a really great defensive catcher. Everyone who's been in the Royals clubhouse would say a really good clubhouse guy, one of the best, one of the more positive people to be around if you're inside of Kauffman on the day-to-day basis. And I saw Joel Goldberg put out a video about like what this means to the Royals, what this means to get rid of someone like Freddie Fermin, which unfortunately it's just the nature of the business. Like,
right.
He's a 30-year-old catcher who's in his 4th season. Long-term prospects with the team aren't great because you've got Salvador Perez, who is obviously the veteran, and yeah, he's not catching as often, but with what the Royals have in their farm system, Carter Jensen, a guy who might be up in September, or at the very least is probably expected to be on the opening day roster next season, those type of things, it allows you to go for 2 months of Luke Maile if he has to be on the roster for 2 months as a result, because you're improving your pitching situation next season so drastically that it's worth it. You hate to see Freddie go. He's one of the reasons the Royals are incredible at not allowing guys to steal bases. He's a good clubhouse guy, all those things. That is the first of the 3 deals that they made today, and overall I think it's a positive one.
Jensen, by the way, a Park Hill alum, so kind of a cool story floating there. He was called up to AAA about a month ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And our Mark Palos actually just talked to his parents after he performed really well in the MLB Futures game. So that story's on KCTV5.com if you want to listen to his parents, because probably be wearing royal blue in the near future. Okay, let's move on to move number 2 of 3 of the day. This one, the Royals announced at 4:55. Obviously, it was made prior to that, but kind of an at-the-buzzer one for us. With the Pirates acquiring Bailey Falter, the lefty, in exchange for Evan Sisk and Callan Moss. Gabe, grading. Let's retrospect your grade of the first move of the day.
The first move of the day, I think, is really good process. I think that it's a B+, A- move.
B+,
and that's
okay. We'll go optimistic.
That's
A-
if we're.
for move
that's.
1.
I mean, I think that the idea of like grading things immediately is a little
Time
crazy.
will tell.
It's not as insane
As
when
the Rich Hill move, maybe.
Well, I would just say it's not as insane as like you saw the big moves overnight. Mason Miller, early this morning, he gets traded from the A's to the Padres, another deal that the Padres made. They were very active. The Royals were very active at the deadline as well. But a lot of the trade deadline grades, it's like, well, did did the A's get back the correct prospect value for someone as proven as a reliever as Mason Miller and a guy who can throw 103 miles an hour and whatever. Well, when you're grading it as prospects and such, it's it's a lot of projection.
Sure.
This is a little bit of projection, but it's also two guys who you have evidence are major league arms. They will contribute in some way. And that's kind of the same thing you can say with this Bailey Falter move is it is the Royals adding a really talented pitcher who I think one of the most impressive things you can say about him is he's pitched for the Pittsburgh Pirates this season and he has a winning record. And that's not something that a lot of starting pitchers can do. A solid ERA, 7-5 record, and a guy who was one of the Pirates' best pitchers aside from Paul Skeens, of course, and figures to slot in for the Royals rotation for a year or two if they want to hold on to him. They're starting to kind of stockpile several young arms, and I also think that you just are starting to give the Royals the benefit of the doubt in terms of pitching development as of late with what they've done with the coaching staff as of late. Last season was really good. This season's been good. And what they've done with Chris Bubich, what they've done with Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, all these different guys, getting the best out of them, whether they're in their late 30s like Seth Lugo or mid-30s or whether it's a young guy like Chris Bubich who didn't really tap into his potential until this season. I think the Falter move is really good, and the what they gave up for him, Evan Sisk, yeah, he was in the majors very, very briefly, I think back in April or May earlier this season, but wasn't a major contributor, wasn't someone who was knocking down the door in Omaha to get MLB chances, but will probably get some of that with the Pirates. And then Moss, I don't think that I'm not an absolute expert on Royals prospect system, but I don't think that that's something that you're going to
catastrophic
absolutely
loss you'll
miss
feel later.
out on. Yeah.
Okay. Found out about the third and final move of the day, probably.
Yep.
Literally on my walk over to the live desk, Gabe. You were the first one who told me about this. First of all, very busy day for JJ Piccolo. I want to kind of backtrack. Did you expect it to be this helter-skelter?
I figured that they would make a move for pitching and a move for a bat. And
Sure.
that's why I was a little confused when it got to 5 o'clock
Yeah.
our time and we thought the deadline had passed. Of course, sometimes it's just a matter of reporters acquiring the information and
Right.
they have to sift through it in order, and thus like Jeff Passan got to this deal that we're about to talk about, Mike Yastrzemski coming from the Giants. He got to it at like 5:08, 5:10ish,
Yeah.
and then said,
I thought
wow,
we were done
like,
for the day. Yeah.
there was the deadline.
Yeah.
And the Royals just tweeted the official deal in
Oh, there it
exchange
is.
for
Yeah.
minor leaguer Yunier Marte, and said a corresponding move will be announced later. So over the last couple weeks, the Royals have made they've added, whether it's today, adding the 4 players, Yastrzemski, and the 3 pitchers, and then Randall Grichuk, Adam Frazier. So they've added 6 guys. The roster shuffle, I would have to figure, like a Tyler Tolbert is probably going back to AAA. Who knows what happens when Jack Caglione comes back from the injured list, or Mark Canha comes back from the injured list, and maybe he's a DFA candidate. Who knows? But yeah, to answer your question about what I was expecting, I thought 1 or 2 deals, and I was confused when there was no bat added prior to the deadline, but now there was one.
Here you go. Yeah. Okay. We didn't grade number 3. You didn't grade number 2. I don't think. I think we have an A- for number 1.
I think that the second trade is the Bailey Falter deal is also a B+ or an A-, and the Yastrzemski grade is like it's a B-. They're adding a veteran bat who has 5.5 years of service time in the MLB, who you know is also a really solid defender in the outfield, which matters at Kauffman Stadium, and is someone who you can play and you can trust. So I think that any move that they make that gets them out of the position of having to start the Tyler Tolberts or the Drew Waters, if he's up there. I also wonder if this means that MJ Melendez is going back to Omaha again. We will see.
Time will tell.
But I think you've already seen positive returns with the Randall Grichuk trade, the Adam Frazier trade. Like, Adam Frazier didn't have a great 2024 with the Royals, but since he's come to the Royals in 2025 and given the offensive struggles of the Royals in 2025, his on-base percentage, his on-base percentage has been super helpful for the Royals in just putting together quality at-bats and getting on base a decent amount. So that's been really helpful. I think it's a really solid day for the trade deadline. You also look at other teams that have kind of taken themselves out of things, like the Twins went on a full sell. They're ejecting from the AL playoff race. The Rays did like a partial sell and buy. I would say that they sold more than the Royals did, because just the Royals, you're just pretty much giving up Freddie Fermin. All of these things I think are good because it's solid process to put yourself more in the race for this season as you're playing really good baseball in July, while also improving for 2026 and 2027 because you got so many controllable pitchers who are young to work with.
Royals back in action tomorrow, 6:07 on KCTV5 and on KSMO. So Royals taking on the Blue Jays on our air, and lots more games to come, especially as we're kind of chasing this, final wild card spot. I think at last check, Royals are 4.5 games out.
3.5.
3.5. All right, love it.
It's 3 now, and it'll be 3.5 depending on who wins the Rangers-Mariners game late tonight.
And some good ones on our air. I think there are 2 against the Tigers coming up, another division game of some kind. So kctv5.com/Royals, but circle your calendar, set your DVR, tune in tomorrow at 6:07 for Royals Blue Jays. Okay, a couple minutes left, Gabe. We've been doing a lot of these KC Sports Tonight shows from St. Joe. So you and I don't even know if we've been on this desk together since camp started. So wanted to run through some of your top takeaways now that we are 8 days in the books of Chiefs training camp. What day is it? Thursday? Is it Thursday?
Yep.
So we are 9 days out from the Chiefs' first preseason game.
Yeah.
Really, Tuesday was the crazy day of camp so far. I was there yesterday. It was very slow. But Tuesday, you had the big fight going on. You had 3 receivers go down to injury, TBD on the kind of severity of those. But and then we have, in my mind, a sleeper of camp who I think is going to be big for the Chiefs this year. I almost said Royals. That would have been a bit of a plot twist. Gabe, let's just open it up pretty broad. Your top takeaways of now that we've had a bit of a look at this team so far, a couple days in full pads.
Well, I think that the buzz of camp, the Josh Simmons stuff, whether it's the fight or just the play on the field, the play once they've put the pads on, and his ability to be healthy, because going back to when he was drafted, going back to OTAs, rookie minicamp, all these different things, his level of participation in training camp was such a question mark, and there's really been nothing holding him back at this point.
Yeah.
It almost seems like he is hitting the 100th percentile injury return outcome from this torn patellar tendon, which is a really, really good sign for the Chiefs, because the best case scenario is that the investment they made in the offseason with Jalen Moore is either, he goes to left guard to play or compete against Kingsley, or he's
flips to the right side.
He's going up against Jawan Taylor. If Jawan Taylor continues to have knee issues that bothered him throughout the end of last season and throughout this, or the penalty issues,
career,
or he's just a really, really qualified sixth guy who, he spent a lot of his career in San Francisco waiting behind Trent Williams. Maybe he's going to be waiting behind Jawan Taylor and be ready to move into the right tackle spot when I think, as most people expect, Jawan Taylor is going to be a cap casualty ahead of the 2026 season. That's looking way ahead. I think that is a really positive sign. And the other offseason storyline we've all been watching has been the Rashee Rice stuff and whether he's healthy, whether he's going to be suspended, which we're still awaiting. But in that line, what the receiver room looks like. And Tyquan Thornton's there, Sky Moore's there, Hollywood Brown is dealing with the ankle injury. I think that my guess is that, given how the Chiefs have talked about it, how they talked about it on Wednesday, and the way that it's looking, and just, you said it, Wednesday's practice was a little slow.
Yeah.
It was the 10-10-10. It was one of the lighter practices of training camp and ahead of an off day. If he's back out there tomorrow, I think that's one less thing to worry about.
You're saying Hollywood?
Yes,
yeah.
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Whereas Sky Moore's kind of in the spot, not to compare him in the same realm, of head case or issue, but the way that we talked about Kadarius Toney in training camp last season was a lot of like
in terms of being on the bubble.
In terms of being on the bubble of the roster, is
there's
like
only so many spots.
He can't afford things to go poorly. He can't afford injury setbacks, all of these different things, and then it just continued to pile up for Toney last year, and he ended up being cut. I think that that's where we're heading toward for Sky Moore, especially when you're seeing.
You think he'll be cut?
I think he will be cut.
I think what makes it tough for Sky Moore is how good Nico Remigio has been on the return game. And then you add in the fact that Tyquan Thornton is having a really, really good camp. So much so to where Juju Smith-Schuster said he's excited to have him as part of the team this year, yesterday. Yeah, which I think sheds some insight into the decision-making.
He's like, I think that the Tyquan Thornton stuff is like best case scenario for the Chiefs and for the receiver room and for the holistic, like who can do what in the receiver room. That's where it also just hurts Sky Moore, is that he's a smaller guy, and a lot of what he does or where he lines up is stuff that Hollywood Brown's going to do or Xavier Worthy's going to do. But Tyquan Thornton figures to be a really, really, really cheap version of what they had in MVS for a long time, which works to his favor in terms of making the roster. So I think that's kind of where I'm at for the Chiefs receiver room at this point. Yeah.
Be interesting to see how that shakes out, and we don't have that much time left. I think we're like 3 weeks out from the cut date. But okay, left tackle situation, wide receiver situation. Gabe, any other big things popping out to you at camp so far? Let's talk about the fight, because we haven't really talked about it yet. I'm curious. I've gotten Neil's take. I've gotten Mark's take. I'm curious your thoughts on our first, I guess, punches thrown moment at training camp.
I don't think that this is a big deal.
Yeah.
It feels like every year there's like one fight.
Yeah.
And I did find it funny that Travis Kelce was walking between them, whereas in years past, sometimes he is the one involved.
Yeah.
And maybe Travis Kelce's getting to the point of like, it's not worth it to me. Like, why do I need to get involved in this other than to be like, all right,
what do
guys,
I gain from this?
Let's get on to the next one.
Yeah.
I was not in St. Joe on Tuesday. I was, like Neil said, I was in Kansas City playing golf. So I can attest to how hot it was outside.
Yeah.
And how hot it was when you were outside for an extended period of time.
Which is what Andy Reid cited after. He's like, it's hot. People get ornery when it gets to be like this. Yeah.
So I wasn't doing anything physically that would make me want to punch someone else, but I wasn't in Andy Reid practice. I was just outside playing some golf. But yeah, I could see why somebody would be upset by having to go against the same person over and over. And we're getting to that point where I think this weekend and into next week before the preseason game against the Cardinals, where like we're about to check off the bingo list of like, these guys are ready to hit somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming next week.
Yeah, we are well past that point. I think the fight ended up being such a big storyline at camp because of a story that Neil did earlier in the week, which was, it's a quote-unquote boring camp so far, which is good news. I know boring has obviously a negative connotation to it, but remember a couple years back we had, wasn't it Kadarius Toney got hurt on the very first play of camp, ended up
he got hurt on like
pre-camp. It was like before practice even started.
Yeah, it was the first day.
Yeah.
When a lot of people still aren't there.
Yeah, so we've had, big injuries, which yes, we had a couple in the wide receiver room, but they all sound not super concerning. Xavier Worthy banged his head. The way they're talking about it, I think the concussion protocol stuff is more of a formality than anything. Hollywood Brown, Andy Reid, we talked to him, the last time we talked to him was right after the injury happened, so it sounded like he hadn't gotten an update for the medical team yet, but he said he didn't think it would be that bad. And then Sky Moore is the question mark. But that said, we've had, years of big injuries. We've had years of heated position battles. Not saying that we don't have some of those this year, but things have been relatively quiet, which is good news. So when you have a rookie punching another rookie in the face, it kind of jumps out to you at training camp. But another big one tomorrow, they'll be back in full pads. Again, they had that hard practice on Tuesday. Wednesday was a borderline day off. It was really, really light. Guys were in shells. I had today off. So tomorrow should be exciting.
And good weather tomorrow.
And good weather. So hopefully no punches
Hopefully
thrown.
People are in a good mood.
Yeah. But we'll be out there. Neil Jones and Mark Palos are reporting to camp tomorrow right after camp ends. Andy Reid is set to take the podium along with a couple other players. So we will be streaming that live to you on KCTV5 Plus. You can download that free streaming app on Apple TV, Fire TV, and on Roku. So we'll see you there. We'll see you for KC Sports Tonight, same time, same place tomorrow. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.